Well, it's been nearly a week since Gene Hackman's body was discovered. This morning, while authorities have ruled out some scenarios, they still don't know what happened to Hackman and his wife.
As we're learning incredible new details this hour about the circumstances surrounding his death. His front door open, scattered pills on the bathroom countertop, one dog in the closet, two still alive on the property.
The story of Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa's final days has become one of the most captivating mysteries in recent memory, leaving fans and investigators alike grasping for answers. How could two beloved figures, known for their quiet lives and generosity, meet such an enigmatic end in their secluded Santa Fe home? The details trickling out from the investigation paint a picture that is as puzzling as it is heart-wrenching, and now, whispers of new evidence and shocking developments have set the stage for what could be one of the most sensational revelations in Hollywood history.
As Hollywood gets ready to honor its best at the Academy Awards this weekend, there are still unanswered questions about the death of two-time Oscar winner Gene Hackman and his wife. The couple was found this week in their New Mexico home. On Friday, investigators ruled out carbon monoxide poisoning and revealed other clues that may lead them to determine what did happen.
It all began with an innocuous visit to the Hackman residence by maintenance workers Jesse Kessler and Roland Lowy Begay. What they stumbled upon was anything but ordinary. The door to the sprawling estate, typically secured behind gates and shrouded in privacy, was found ajar. Inside, the scene was surreal. Hackman's lifeless body sprawled in a mudroom near his cane, as if he'd been caught mid-stride. Betsy, on the other hand, was discovered in the bathroom, a space heater eerily close to her head, and pills scattered across the countertop. To add to the strangeness, one of their German shepherds had also perished, found in a closet nearby. Two other dogs, however, were alive, one roaming outside and the other near Betsy's location. For a couple known to be meticulous and self-contained, the haphazard nature of the scene raised immediate questions.
And here in Santa Fe, Sheriff's Department officials here working behind me have yet another high-profile case on their hands. Aaron, you and I covered at length the Alec Baldwin case, that fatal shooting on the set of the movie Rust. This is the same investigative team that worked that case.
At first, speculation leaned towards natural causes or a tragic accident, especially given Hackman's advanced age of 95. But as investigators began piecing together the timeline, the story grew more complex. Hackman's pacemaker recorded its last activity on February 17, 9 days before the bodies were discovered. This revelation sparked endless theories. Was this simply a case of an elderly man succumbing to a heart condition, or was there more to the story? Betsy's body, showing signs of mummification, suggested she had been deceased for some time as well. But why had she been found separate from her husband? And why the peculiar positioning near a space heater?
His wife, they say that initial findings note no external trauma to either individual. They say that carbon monoxide toxicology reports have been requested. Finally, as sheriff's officials gather information, it's worth pointing out that this could take weeks or months before we know exactly what the cause of death is. That's because these medical examiner cases often take time in order to get to the root cause of these deaths.
Authorities initially ruled out carbon monoxide poisoning, a common concern in cases where multiple individuals and animals are found unresponsive in an enclosed space. Tests conducted by fire personnel and gas companies yielded no evidence of leaks. This eliminated one theory, but left a void that begged to be filled with answers. And that's when the rumors began to swirl. What if this wasn't just a tragic coincidence? What if someone else had been involved? Insiders close to law enforcement have reportedly hinted that new evidence points to foul play. The scattered pills, initially dismissed as a possible accident, are now under scrutiny. Were they staged to mislead investigators? Some believe the prescription bottle was tampered with, its contents manipulated to create a misleading narrative. Others question the space heater's proximity to Betsy's body. Was it merely a coincidence, or could it have been used to accelerate decomposition in a bid to confuse timelines? These are the kinds of questions that have left even seasoned detectives scratching their heads.
There was a dog who was alive in the house and a dog also that belonged to them who was outside the house.
Right, but the door being ajar means, what Judy describes, which is they could have been there 10 days or 2 weeks, meant that the dogs could have had access to come in and out of that doorway. They might have had access to food and to water.
The most tantalizing development, however, has been the rumored arrest of suspects connected to the case. Though officials have yet to confirm this publicly, leaks suggest that individuals with a potential motive, be it robbery, personal vendettas, or something more sinister, are being questioned. One theory gaining traction is that the couple's secluded lifestyle may have made them vulnerable targets. Despite their reclusive nature, Hackman and Betsy were known to interact with select individuals in their community, from neighbors to contractors. Could someone in their inner circle have betrayed their trust? Or was this the work of outsiders who saw an opportunity to exploit the couple's isolation? These chilling possibilities have cast a shadow over what was once considered a peaceful retreat.
Jerika, good evening to you. As well known as Gene Hackman was, neighbors tell us that he and his wife led intensely private lives here in Santa Fe, their longtime home. And while we've been learning more about this case, there is still so much we don't know.
Adding to the intrigue is the discovery of other items in the home that could hold crucial clues. Investigators retrieved 2 cell phones, an orange prescription bottle, and a 2025 monthly planner from the residence. Experts believe the phones could provide a wealth of information from the couple's last communications to potential geolocation data that might reveal any unusual activity leading up to their demises. The planner, too, has become a focal point. Did it contain appointments or notes that might shed light on their final days? Could it point to someone they were expecting or fearing? As the investigation deepens, forensic experts have weighed in with their own theories. One prominent pathologist suggested that Hackman's heart condition may have triggered a series of tragic events. If his pacemaker recorded an arrhythmia or cardiac arrest on February 17, is it possible Betsy found him and panicked? Did she attempt to retrieve medication to save him, only to meet her own untimely end in the process? This theory, while plausible, doesn't account for the other anomalies: the scattered tablets, the deceased canine, or the unsecured entrance.
On Wednesday, February 26, 2025, at approximately 1:45 p.m., Santa Fe County Sheriff's deputies were dispatched to 1425 Old Sunset Trail, where Gene Hackman, 95, and his wife Betsy Arakawa, 65, and a dog were found deceased.
The possibility of staged elements complicates matters further. For instance, the mummification of Betsy's hands and feet, while consistent with the effects of a space heater in dry conditions, could also suggest an intentional attempt to obscure the timeline of her passing. Similarly, the scattered pills might have been placed deliberately to create the illusion of an accidental overdose. These details, if true, point to a calculated effort to mislead investigators, raising the stakes of this already baffling case.
Deputies arrived and gained access to the residence where they observed Mrs. Arakawa deceased. They continued the search of their home and located Mr. Hackman in a separate area of the residence, also deceased. A German Shepherd was also found deceased, and 2 other dogs who appeared healthy were located on the property.
Even more bizarre are the whispers about items potentially missing from the home. While nothing has been confirmed, sources close to the investigation have hinted that certain valuables or personal effects may be unaccounted for. If true, this could suggest a motive tied to theft. Yet, the absence of signs of forced entry complicates this theory. Could the perpetrator have been someone the couple knew and trusted enough to let into their home? Or is it possible they were caught off guard by someone who had managed to bypass their normally secure property? As the days turn into weeks, anticipation builds for the release of the official police report. Insiders have teased that the findings could be explosive, offering answers to some of the most pressing questions while undoubtedly raising new ones. Will the report confirm the presence of foul play, or will it lean towards a tragic series of unfortunate events? And if suspects have indeed been apprehended, what will their connection to the couple reveal about the deeper, hidden dynamics of their lives?
From this search warrant, there were 2 green in color cell phones, 2 bottles of medication, 1 bottle of over-the-counter Tylenol, my request medical records, and a 2025 monthly planner calendar. Those items were secured from the residence for evidentiary purposes.
For now, the mystery remains painfully unresolved. The world waits with bated breath as investigators work tirelessly to connect the dots, sifting through every clue and every inconsistency. The image of Gene Hackman, a man who spent decades captivating audiences with his portrayals of complex, often flawed characters, now looms larger than life in the public imagination. His demise, shrouded in unanswered questions, feels like the final act of a drama that no one saw coming. And as more details emerge, one thing becomes clear. The truth, when it finally comes to light, promises to be as compelling and layered as any role Hackman ever played.
Well, this week, our community lost a giant, and I lost a dear friend, Gene Hackman.
The story of Gene Hackman's life and career is one that Hollywood legends are made of. A man who had it all: fame, fortune, talent, and yet chose to walk away from the spotlight to embrace a quieter, simpler life. But now, with his unexpected passing and the mysterious circumstances surrounding it, people are reflecting not just on the tragedy, but on the incredible legacy he left behind. Hackman wasn't just any actor. He was a force of nature, someone who could command attention with just a glance, a raised eyebrow, or one of his signature fiery outbursts on screen. And yet, behind that powerful presence was a man who valued humility, privacy and authenticity above all else. The world has lost an icon, but the question remains, how does one even begin to measure the impact of a life like Gene Hackman's?
I had the pleasure of working alongside Gene on 2 films, Unforgiven and Under Suspicion. And like everyone who's ever shared a scene with him, I learned he was a generous performer and a man whose gifts elevated everyone's work.
Hackman's career spanned decades, and whether he was playing a tough-as-nails detective, a scheming villain, or a lovable eccentric, he brought a depth and complexity to his roles that few actors could match. Think about it. How many performers can claim to have won 2 Academy Awards, one for his unforgettable turn as Popeye Doyle in The French Connection, and another for his chilling performance as the corrupt sheriff in Unforgiven? And let's not forget his other nominations for films like Mississippi Burning and I Never Sang for My Father. These roles weren't just characters. They were people you believed in, even when you hated them. Hackman had this incredible ability to make you feel like you were watching a real person, flaws and all, rather than an actor playing a part.
He received 2 Oscars, but more importantly, he won the hearts of film lovers all over the world. Gene always said, I don't think about legacy. I just hope people remember me as someone who tried to do good work.
But his talent didn't stop there. Hackman's versatility was second to none. He could make you laugh just as easily as he could make you squirm. Remember his role as Lex Luthor in Superman? He turned a comic book villain into a character with wit, charm, and just the right amount of menace. And then there's the Royal Tenenbaums, where Hackman's portrayal of the deeply flawed but endearing patriarch, Royal Tenenbaum, became the heart of the film. It's no wonder that so many of his co-stars and collaborators have described working with Hackman as both a privilege and a masterclass in acting.
So I think I speak for us all when I say, Gene, you'll be remembered for that and for so much more. Rest in peace, my friend.
What's even more impressive is how Hackman managed to stay grounded despite his success. In an industry known for its glitz and glamour, Hackman was the opposite of a diva. He wasn't interested in the fame or the red carpets. He was interested in the craft. And when the time came for him to step away from acting, he did so without fanfare. His final role in the 2004 comedy Welcome to Mooseport may not have been the dramatic farewell fans were hoping for, but for Hackman, it was enough. He had given everything he had to his career and was ready to move on to other passions, like writing and painting. In a rare interview, Hackman once said, "I didn't want to go out on a sour note. The business is stressful, and I felt like I had nothing left to prove." That decision to retire to Santa Fe, New Mexico, with his wife Betsy Arakawa, speaks volumes about who Hackman was as a person. Santa Fe wasn't just a place to escape the pressures of Hollywood. It was a community he embraced wholeheartedly. Hackman and Arakawa became fixtures in the local scene, supporting businesses, charities, and the arts. But they did it quietly, without seeking recognition or applause. People who knew them in Santa Fe described the couple as kind, generous, and deeply connected to each other.
It's weird because I knew a lot of them, so they weren't intimidating. Meeting Gene Hackman the first time, was like, but then finding out he was so funny, that was a great thing.
Yeah.
When I saw him, he did that speech in Birdcage where he just says that thing about, and the leaves. And at that point, you just slowly nod off. But he did it so, it's a hard thing to make boring hysterical. And he did it.
Yeah.
And he did it perfectly, he had this.
For those who crossed paths with Hackman and Arakawa, the couple's humility was often a source of surprise, especially considering Hackman's status as one of Hollywood's greatest actors. Local business owner Doe Lanham, who co-owned a restaurant with Hackman for nearly a decade, shared a heartwarming story of Hackman's quirky sense of humor. After losing a small golf bet, Hackman repaid Lanham in a wheelbarrow full of pennies, delivered straight to the restaurant with a playful note signed Captain Hollywood. It was moments like these that revealed Hackman's down-to-earth nature. He wasn't interested in being treated like a celebrity. He simply wanted to be seen as a neighbor, a friend, and someone who could contribute to the community in his own quiet way.
Of legendary actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa, the couple along with their dog found dead in their New Mexico home this week by a maintenance worker. Listen, this is part of the 911 call.
Even Hackman's artistic pursuits reflected his unassuming personality. After retiring from acting, he turned to painting, creating over a dozen original works that now hang in local businesses, including Ginger Bar and Bistro, the restaurant he co-founded. What's remarkable is that none of the paintings are signed. Friends and colleagues say this was entirely intentional, a way for Hackman to let the art speak for itself rather than drawing attention to his name. That was Gene in a nutshell, said a friend. He didn't need the spotlight. He just wanted to create, to share, and to give back without making a fuss His paintings, much like his performances, continue to resonate with those fortunate enough to experience them. Hackman's generosity extended far beyond just the arts. Over the years, he and Arakawa became silent benefactors for numerous local causes, from funding educational programs to supporting animal shelters. One such story involves a struggling small business in Santa Fe that Hackman helped keep afloat during a particularly challenging period. According to sources, Hackman quietly contributed funds to the business, insisting that his involvement remain anonymous. He didn't want gratitude or recognition, said a community member. He just wanted to help. That's the kind of person he was, someone who saw where he could make a difference and did so without hesitation. These acts of kindness, often done behind the scenes, are a testament to the couple's character and their deep love for the community they called home.
The reason the digital information from both of their cell phones is so important, Natasha, is because cell phones can track movement, and that's what they are going to look into. When did those cell phones cease not only to be used, but cease to move?
And yet, even in retirement, Hackman couldn't entirely escape the spotlight. His presence in Santa Fe was significant. Locals tell stories of seeing him riding his bike through the neighborhood or chatting with neighbors at community events. But as the years went on, Hackman became more private, especially after the rise of the global health crisis. Friends noticed that the couple began to limit their outings, with Betsy taking extra precautions to protect her husband's health. It's heartbreaking to think that, in their final years, Hackman and Arakawa may have felt more isolated than ever, even in the town they loved so much.
Now to new details in the investigation into the death of Gene Hackman, who received an emotional tribute at last night's Oscars just days after he and his wife were found dead under suspicious circumstances.
The outpouring of grief from fans, colleagues, and the Santa Fe community following their passing has been overwhelming. Social media had been flooded with tributes, with people sharing their favorite Hackman performances and personal anecdotes about how his work touched their lives. Hollywood has also taken notice, with many of Hackman's former co-stars and collaborators expressing their shock and sorrow. He was a giant, said Clint Eastwood, who directed Hackman in Unforgiven. There will never be another like him. And then there's the emotional tribute from Morgan Freeman during the Oscars, where he called Hackman a man whose gifts elevated everyone's work. But perhaps one of the most touching tributes came from Stuart Ashman, one of Hackman's close friends in Santa Fe. Ashman spoke about the actor's generosity and humility, recalling how Hackman once traded him a painting for a dozen eggs. That was Gene, Ashman said. He didn't see himself as this big movie star. He was just a guy who loved life and the people around him.
Mean for certain that carbon monoxide as the cause of can be ruled out. In certain situations, especially when it comes to delayed discovery, post-mortem carbon monoxide levels can be unreliable in general.
Despite all the praise and admiration, Hackman's passing has left an undeniable void, not just in Hollywood, but in the hearts of those who knew him. The mystery surrounding his final days only adds to the sense of loss. How could someone so larger than life be gone under such strange and tragic circumstances? And what does this mean for the legacy he leaves behind? As investigators continue to piece together what happened, one thing is certain: the world will never forget Gene Hackman and the incredible mark he made on film, art, and the lives of those who were lucky enough to know him.
Right now, we don't. Of course, we executed the search warrant yesterday, starting on the evening of the 26th, all into yesterday afternoon. And one of our investigators attended the autopsy yesterday. We don't have more information. We're trying to put things together, put together a timeline when the decedents were last seen or spoken to.
As we reflect on his life, it's impossible not to wonder about the unanswered questions. What was it about Hackman that made him so magnetic, so unforgettable? Was it his raw talent, his dedication, or something else? A quality that can't be put into words but can be felt every time you watch one of his performances. Whatever it was, it's clear that Hackman was more than just an actor. He was a storyteller, a craftsman, and above all, a man who lived life on his own terms. So while the mystery surrounding his final days may never be fully resolved, his legacy is one that will continue to inspire and captivate for generations to come. The enigma of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa's final days remains a haunting mystery, leaving us with more questions than answers. As we await further revelations, we can't help but wonder, could there have been foul play involved, or was this a tragic series of events? And if suspects are indeed being questioned, who might have had a motive to harm such a beloved couple? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going as we honor the legacy of Gene Hackman and seek the truth behind this perplexing case. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, stay curious and stay tuned.